Technique number 1, the backstep. The first reason why you need to master the backstep is that it allows you to more easily avoid attacks and roars. At 60 frames per second, the backstep has 25 invincibility frames, which is almost double the amount compared to a normal dodge roll. The backstep is also affected by the evade window armor skill and the evasion mantle, and it can even trigger the evasion mantle. The second reason is that it gives access to some of your most powerful combos, such as Falling Bash and Perfect Rush, and especially Perfect Rush since it's absolutely overpowered in Iceborne. So let's talk about how to perform the backstep. The first method is by pressing circle while holding back on the left stick after almost any move. This is most useful for when you need to dodge an attack while you're in the middle of a combo. The second method is by pressing circle during a roll. This method is great for quickly repositioning yourself, or for just comboing Perfect Rush into itself. In particular with a forward roll, you can additionally hold a direction on the left stick while pressing circle to backstep facing that direction. However, you can't just spam circle, or else you won't change direction. You'll actually need to time the circle input correctly, which is around the time your character hits the ground during the roll animation. The timing is kinda tight, so it's not too worth it most of the time, but it's very swag to pull off. The third and final method is by pressing circle and back on the left stick while guarding. This is actually the most useful method, so I recommend that you practice this for a bit in a training area. If you are struggling with this, then the biggest tip I have is to not think about pressing circle and back at the same time, despite what the game tries to tell you. This will usually lead to accidental guard slashes, which is a terrible move in this game. Instead, you want to think about pressing circle first, then quickly afterwards press back on the left stick. Another tip is with the directional control type settings. By default, the inputs on the left stick are relative to the direction the camera is facing, but back on the left stick always refer to the direction the character is facing. So on type 1, if you are facing away from the camera, back on the left stick means down on the left stick, but if you are facing towards the camera, back on the left stick means up on the left stick. However, in type 2, inputs on the left stick are now always relative to the direction the character is facing, and thus back on the left stick will always be down on the left stick. This is worth mentioning since sometimes you may need a backstep at some awkward camera angles, and changing to type 2 will always make your back inputs down. There are probably some players out there who use type 2 specifically to make these backsteps more consistent. Personally, I don't really like type 2, but if you're finding type 2 better for more consistent backsteps, then go for it. Technique number 2, guarding. Holding R2 allows you to guard with the shield. But hold on, how can guarding be an advanced technique for the sword and shield? Well, guarding can be useful for blocking attacks in an emergency situation. That's not why it's such an important move. Let's first talk about what actions you can take while guarding. Press triangle while guarding to perform a rising slash, a nice quick attack whenever you are super close to your target. Press circle while guarding to perform a guard slash. Again, a terrible move in this game, you should never use this. We already talked about how to backstep while guarding. Press square while guarding to use your selected item. And press cross while guarding to roll. Now, it turns out that you don't actually need to be holding guard for that long to perform any action from guard. In fact, you can just press the buttons at the same time to pretty much do any of these actions from guard instantaneously. For example, you can perform an instant rising slash. And very importantly, you can perform an instant backstep, which when mastered is such a powerful way to dodge attacks. But it gets better because you can also guard while sheath. So combine the fact that you can almost instantly perform any action from guard with the fact that you can guard while sheath, and now you effectively have more options for unsheathing. I like to call these guard actions performed in this manner pseudo draw attacks because functionally they act as draw attacks, but they aren't technically draw attacks since they won't be affected by the critical draw armor skill. One of the most important pseudo draw attacks is the backstep. This is perfect for dodging attacks while you are sheathed, and it also effectively makes Falling Bash and Perfect Rush draw attacks. And the other important pseudo draw attack is the roll. This is useful for both unsheathing the sword and shield while also closing distance. It also effectively makes claw uppercuts a draw attack as well. Now, one of the best examples I can think of that puts these two techniques together is when you clagger the monster. Clagger referring to the special stagger animation where the monster is drooling and the game encourages you to clutch claw the monster. So in this particular example, after I clagger Alatreon, I hold R1 to sheath my weapon and begin running to position myself faster and easier for the upcoming claw uppercut. Once I'm in position, I quickly press R2 to guard, then cross to roll. That way, I essentially unsheath my weapon and roll forward at the same time, so I can immediately use a claw uppercut right here. A claw uppercut does two things. It will contribute to the next tenderize, and since Alatreon has been claggered, clutch clawing Alatreon will extend the duration of the stagger animation, which will allow you to follow up with either the clutch claw attack to fully tenderize the body parts, or you can choose to dismount like I'm doing here to follow up with perfect rush and deal massive damage. Now when you dismount, your weapon will be sheathed, so to use perfect rush as soon as possible, I have to quickly press R2 plus circle, then back on the left stick to perform an instant backstep from sheath. Then I use perfect rush from there. Again, this is a great example of how to effectively utilize both the backstep and the guard. I really believe that mastering both techniques will drastically improve your Sword and Shield gameplay and separates the beginner players from the expert players. So, if you are playing World or Iceborne right now, go ahead and give these two techniques a shot. That'll be all for this video. If you have anything to add, leave a comment down below. Like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you aren't already subscribed. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.